Isshin Kurosaki is one of the most mysterious characters within Bleach. In chapter 186, the Grand Fisher returned as an Arrancar. He was newly transformed and ready to kill Ichigo, but then out of nowhere, the middle-aged doctor appears in his full Shinigami attire with a tattered captain's coat draped over his shoulder. He goes on to cut down the Grand Fisher in a single strike. This shocking moment left everyone speechless. Kubo gradually peeled back the layers of mystery surrounding Isshin from this moment onwards, revealing him to be a former captain of the 10th Division, as well as the former head of the Shiba clan, and a warrior with over a century of combat experience, whose true power we have barely scratched the surface of. In this video, I'll be analysing everything that we know about Isshin's combat abilities, along with his Shiba clan lineage, all of his techniques and impressive feats within the series. Will be ranking his position amongst the powerhouses of Bleach. And honestly, Isshin may well be stronger than most of you realize. Let's first talk about his background, because it directly affects his power level. Isshin Shiba emerged from one of the great noble families of the Soul Society. The Shiba clan once held the same level of distinction as the Kuchiki and Shihoin clans, but this was before their fall from grace. The 5 great noble families are known for possessing exceptionally high spiritual pressure that far exceeds normal Shinigami. Characters like Byakuya and Yoruichi demonstrated exceptional proficiency and high power levels at very young ages, and this is credited to their noble family bloodline. When Masaki first encountered Isshin during the Everything But the Rain flashback, she described his reatsu as incredibly powerful, and this is coming from a pure-blooded Quincy who would later be strong enough to one-shot the experimental Hollow White. Isshin's spiritual pressure was so immense that the remnants of it was strong enough to suppress Ichigo's inner hollow for years. The reishi string binding the hollow soul to Isshin's human shell held firm until the Soul Society arc. It was only when Ichigo attained bankai during his final fight with Byakuya that the hollow's power grew beyond what Isshin's remnants of power could contain, thus resulting in the binding of the reishi string breaking. As a consequence of this, Isshin's Shinigami powers returned to him. That's why we see him appear as a Shinigami immediately after in chapter 186. His reatsu manifests as a golden orange color, as we see in the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime. His noble heritage explains something deeper about his character. During the Can't Fear Unworld light novels, we learn that the Shiba clan ancestor was one of the original 5 great nobles who participated in the sealing of the Soul King. The ancestor of the Shiba clan actually opposed the mutilation of the Soul King and wanted to find an alternative solution involving self-sacrifice. This theme of sacrifice runs through Isshin's entire character arc, and it may well be reflected in the nature of his Zanbakuto abilities. Fans have wondered why Isshin struggled against the Hollow White during the Everything But the Rain flashback. It didn't make sense that a captain-level Shinigami was genuinely threatened by an experimental Hollow, and it didn't match up with what we saw chronologically later when he effortlessly cut down the Grand Fisher and went toe-to-toe with Sosuke Aizen. Kubo did shed some light on this on his official fan club Klub Outside. When asked if Isshin was suppressed by a Gentei Reiin during his fight with White, Kubo's response was unambiguous, as he states yes, that's correct. The Gentei Reiin is an automatic spiritual pressure limiter placed on captains and lieutenants when they enter the world of the living. It reduces their power to roughly 20% of their full capacity to prevent catastrophic damage to the environment and to human souls. This system activates automatically through the Senkaimon regardless of whether if the mission is authorized or not. Isshin went to Naruki City without any official orders, as he was investigating Shinigami disappearances that Hitsugaya had reported to him. He went alone against the wishes of both Rangiku and Hitsugaya because he knew that they weren't strong enough to assist him, but even an unauthorized mission didn't exempt him from the limiter. When Isshin fought White, he was operating at 1/5 of his actual strength, and despite this massive handicap, he was still trading blows with a Hollow that Aizen himself noted should be beyond a captain's Shikai. Aizen had to personally intervene and stab Isshin from behind using a cloak that insulated spiritual pressure. It's the same type that Urahara had worn during the Turn Back the Pendulum arc. Even while bleeding from a deep wound and fighting at a fraction of his power, his battlefield analysis didn't falter. He immediately recognized realized that the wound came from a zanpakuto, not from White's claws. In an instant, he deduced that there was a traitor within the Gotei 13 who was behind this strange creature. The injury that Aizen inflicted served a specific purpose. It prevented Isshin from stabilizing his reatsu properly, which made activating bankai impossible for him. Yet even wounded and operating at a fraction of his strength, Isshin still managed to sever White's arm using his blood flame attack after releasing Engetsu. Thankfully, he never lost control of the fight. White remained reactive to Isshin's movements rather than dictating the flow of the battle. If Isshin could dominate a Vasto Lorde class hollow at 20% capacity while bleeding from a deep wound, then his unrestricted power becomes genuinely staggering. His signature move is called Agito Wari. It's a single vertical strike that cuts an opponent from the jaw down through the entire length of their body. He demonstrated this against Grand Fisher, cutting through both the Arrancar's massive form and his iron skin with a single swing. When the Grand Fisher boasted about the size of his zanpakuto representing his power, Isshin delivered one of the coldest lines in the series. He told the Grand Fisher that all captain level Shinigami consciously keep their zanpakuto at a manageable size. Otherwise, everyone will be swinging around swords the size of skyscrapers. He told him to remember never to judge an opponent by the size of their sword, calling Grand Fisher a kid before watching him ball. His physical combat abilities are equally impressive. Isshin has several named Hakuda techniques like Super Stubble Headbutt. It's a headbutt with enough force to send an opponent backward a considerable distance, along with his iconic Oni Head Poke, a single finger flick that sent Hogyoku enhanced Aizen crashing through multiple buildings. His Kido capabilities often get overlooked, but Isshin can create charmed objects that act as defensive barriers. Before Ichigo left for the Soul Society, Isshin gave him a protective charm, claiming Misaki had given it to him and that it would bring him good fortune. He told Ichigo he was lending it for the trip and that he had to return it. When Ichigo came back and tried to give it back, Isshin refused and instead sewed it into Ichigo's school uniform. When Ichigo asked if he lied about Misaki giving him the charm, Isshin simply changed the subject. This charm later activated against the Grand Fisher, creating a barrier that protected Kon. Isshin can also erect barriers powerful enough to completely erase traces of reatsu, something that he used to hide his presence from detection during his conversations with Urahara. Then there's his durability. During the Fate Karakura Town arc, Aizen hit him with a point-blank Hado 63 Raikoho. The damage wasn't even enough to slow him down. He also tanked the explosion when White self-destructed at close range, surviving what should have been a fatal blast while shielding Misaki from the detonation. His Shumpo proficiency allowed him to keep fast opponents on their toes with continuous assaults. Against Aizen, he maintained pressure despite facing off against someone who had begun transcending the limits of a Shinigami. Isshin Zanpakuto Engetsu translates to Scathing Moon. It's deliberately similar to Ichigo's Zangetsu, which means Slaying Moon. On Klub Outside, Kubo confirmed that Zanpakuto names and characteristics are similar between those who share blood connections. This explains why both father and son can use the Getsuga Tensho and why their Zanpakuto spirits sound so alike. Engetsu's release command is Burn. Upon activation, the blade becomes sheathed in flames while creating long trailing streams of fire from its tassels. The sword doesn't change shape, but its offensive capabilities dramatically increase. It stands as one of only 4 fire-type Zanpakuto in the Soul Society, the most famous being Head Captain Yamamoto's Ryujin Jaka. The most unique aspect of Engetsu is Isshin's blood flame attack. By taking his blood and spitting it onto the blade, he can release a massive torrent of deadly flames. This technique was powerful enough to sever White's arm even while Isshin operated under severe restrictions. The fact that his own blood amplifies the flames suggests that his bankai might capitalize upon this relationship. In question 387 on Klub Outside, Kubo clarified that Isshin's version of Getsuga Tensho differs from Ichigo's. While Ichigo condenses spiritual pressure and releases it as a ranged slashing wave, Isshin's technique is a close range attack, combining fire and reatsu released in the form of a slash. During the Fate Karakura Town arc, Isshin's Getsuga Tensho destroyed a large section of the town and left a massive gash on Aizen's head. Urahara and Yoruichi essentially set up the entire fight to give Isshin a clean shot with the technique. After landing it, Urahara asked, well, how did it work? Confirming they treated it as their trump card. Aizen himself praised the attack as a good strike, being praised by Aizen at that point in the story while he was drunk on the Hogyoku's power, and dismissing everyone else is a feat in itself. In his prime, Isshin additionally charged his Getsuga Tensho with fire, something that the anime showcased during the 1000-year Blood War arc. Speaking of Isshin versus Aizen, his entrance to the fight was perfect. Aizen was about to reveal everything that he had known about Ichigo, saying, "You are a human and a," before Isshin appeared and told him he talks too much. He then headbutted Ichigo with enough force to send him flying into a nearby building before retreating with his son to a hiding spot. When Ichigo said that he had no questions because there must have been a reason Isshin kept his Shinigami nature a secret, Isshin was visibly surprised by his son's maturity. Ichigo trusted that his father would explain everything to him when the time was right. Aizen had previously told Ichigo that keeping your distance only makes sense when facing someone equal to you. Later, when Isshin put distance between himself and Aizen, Aizen directly acknowledged it was a good decision. By Aizen's own logic, this means he considered Isshin a combatant who could go toe-to-toe with him. Aizen expressed genuine interest in two things during this fight: Urahara's hidden Kido, and when Isshin hit him point blank with the Getsuga Tensho. While Urahara used Benihime's abilities to immobilize Aizen and Yoruichi attacked with her anti-iron skin armor, it was Isshin's attack that dealt the most significant damage. His Getsuga cracked through Aizen's Hogyoku shell, something neither Urahara's techniques nor Yoruichi's physical strikes could accomplish. When Aizen noted that Isshin had started to slow down, suggesting fatigue, Isshin countered by pointing out that Aizen was panting and becoming less sharp. He pushed Aizen to the very limits of his Shinigami form, and it was at this point that the Hogyoku began reforming Aizen's soul. After Aizen defeated the trio and left for the Soul Society, Isshin was the first to recover. Despite his injuries, he shook sense then into Ichigo, reminding him of their job to protect Karakura Town, and asking if he planned to let something precious be destroyed again. In the Dangai, with the Korotsu destroyed, Isshin used a special technique called Kaikyo Kote, Realm Boundary Fixation. He threw these prong-shaped rod-like devices attached by long cords to bracelets on his wrists into the flowing walls. Using his own reatsu, he held back the Koryu for nearly 3 months. This feat normally requires dozens of Shinigami working together, but Isshin accomplished it solo while already exhausted from fighting Aizen. We know Isshin has a bankai, and that it puts a considerable strain on his body. We know that he cannot activate it when heavily injured because the wounds prevent him from stabilizing his reatsu properly. Aizen explicitly stated this limitation, and Isshin confirmed that heavy injuries make it impossible to fix his reatsu in the state required for activation. Beyond that, everything else is speculation. Aizen interfered during the battle against White in order to stop Isshin from using his bankai, as he was confident that White couldn't survive against it. Given what we know about Engetsu's fire manipulation and blood enhancement, fans have theorized that Isshin's bankai might follow a phoenix motif with regeneration and amplified flames. Others suggest that it could involve self-immolation, fitting the sacrifice themes that define his character and the Shiba clan's history. Kubo goes out of his way to make Zanpakuto of the same element distinctive, so Isshin's fire-type abilities must differ significantly from Yamamoto's Ryujin Jaka. The fact that Isshin knows about the final Getsuga Tensho adds another layer of mystery. In chapter 409, he recalls that Engetsu was the same as Zangetsu, that their Zanpakuto spirits do not want to teach them this technique. Clearly, he attempted to learn it at some point by facing Engetsu's spirit. We still don't know if he succeeded in learning it, but he did understand the technique well enough to guide Ichigo through learning it in the Dangai, which suggests that he has an exceptionally deep bond with his Zanpakuto. There's more to Isshin than just his power, as there's a lot of depth behind his character. During his time as captain of the 10th Division, he was admittedly lazy and carefree, often pushing paperwork onto his subordinates. Rangiku frequently had to call him back to order, but when he saw how diligently Hitsugaya handled the work, he praised him and said that he saw the future of the division in him. It was a prophecy that came true when Hitsugaya became captain. During his education at the Shinigami Academy, medicine was the only lecture that Isshin actually paid attention to. This eventually allowed him to open a clinic in Karakura Town with Urahara's help after sacrificing his powers for Masaki. Both Isshin and Urahara worked together behind the scenes throughout Bleach. Their friendship was built on mutual respect and shared secrets. During the Fullbring arc, when Ichigo lost his powers and then his Fullbring, it was Isshin and Urahara who orchestrated the restoration of his Shinigami abilities. They helped to gather reatsu from multiple Shinigami into a special sword, with Isshin carrying the glowing blade through moonlit streets. His power was used alongside others to give his son a second chance at being a Shinigami. When Ichigo blamed himself for his mother's death, Isshin told him that nobody holds him responsible. He explained that if he blamed Masaki's death on Ichigo, Masaki would get mad at him. The woman that he fell in love with was someone who could die protecting her son. He reminded Ichigo that he was the one that Masaki gave her life to protect. This was followed by one of his most memorable quotes in the series, where he tells him, "Live well, age well, and go bald well, and die after me. And if you can, die smiling." He's a man who lost everything, rebuilt his life, and refused to let grief consume his son. Isshin's role in the 1000-Year Blood War arc was disappointingly minimal in the manga. He confronted Ichigo at Ikumi's home in his Shinigami form after Ichigo was kicked out of the Soul King's palace. Urahara had kept Isshin informed about the events in the Soul Society, recalling that Ichigo once said Isshin should tell him about his heritage when ready. Isshin finally revealed the truth to him. He explained that Ichigo wasn't just a Shinigami, but also a Quincy through Masaki. He told Ichigo about the Ashvalen and what happened to Uryu's mother. He revealed that all of the Quincy have Yhwach's blood flowing through them, and when he finished, Ichigo thanked him, resolving a plot thread that was established so early in the series. Later, Isshin appeared with Ryuken at Varavelt using an item belonging to Soken Ishida to create a portal. He told Ryuken that he was grateful for what Soken did. Ryuken replied that it was the only time that he'd been grateful for his father's habits, prompting Isshin to say it was no wonder people called him a bad son. Their banter reflects two men who are bound by shared loss. Both of their wives were killed by the same opponent, Yhwach. Together, they delivered the still silver arrowhead to Uryu and then faded into the background. But the anime adaptation of the 1000-Year Blood War arc has already started changing things. Core 3 showed Isshin and Ryuken arriving earlier onto the battlefield. We got an anime exclusive scene of them standing at Kanai Kadagiri's grave, clearly planning something significant, with Kubo stating that he's done more work on Core 4 than all previous cores combined, and the promises of over 50% anime original content in Core 4, there's real potential for these two to finally get the confrontation with Yhwach that they deserve. The possibilities are endless. Isshin may well finally reveal his bankai in defense of Ichigo during these anime exclusive scenes. We could see a father-son Getsuga Tensho combination against Yhwach, Isshin and Ryuken taking on Schutzstaffel members like Jirard or Askin, while their sons handle Hashford and Yhwach. Isshin's flame-enhanced slashes combined with Ryuken's precision arrows targeting specific reishi points in Yhwach would be incredible to see. The setup is all there if Kubo and the anime team choose to use it. So where does Isshin Kurosaki exactly stand amongst the powerhouses of Bleach? Based upon everything that we've analysed within this video, he belongs in the upper ranks of captain class combatants, possibly among the strongest in the history of the Gotei 13. His noble lineage grants him spiritual pressure that exceeds normal Shinigami. His combat feats against White at 20% power, against the Grand Fisher, against Hogyoku enhanced Aizen demonstrate that he has capabilities that few captains can match. Isshin sacrificed his position as a captain, his noble status, and his life in the Soul Society all to protect a Quincy girl who saved his life. He didn't hesitate for a moment. He told Urahara not to make it complicated, that he just had to give up being a Shinigami and protect her for the rest of her life. If he let the girl who saved him die because of some stupid regrets, he'd have to laugh in his own face. While yes, Isshin's bankai is unrevealed and his full potential is still untapped, Core 4 of the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime is promising to change things. We may finally see why Aizen felt the need to stab Isshin from behind rather than face him at full power. So we've now reached the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. What are your thoughts on how powerful Isshin actually is? Do you believe that his bankai would put him among the strongest captains in the Gotei 13? And are you hoping that the anime gives him the fight that he deserves against Yhwach or the Schutzstaffel. Do continue the discussion in the comments, and if there's anything that I've forgotten to mention, then do let me know. And lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this one, and I look forward to seeing you in my next Bleach video.
A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.